Torah, Deuteronomy, but remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth. Bible, Matthew, no one can serve two masters. You cannot serve both God and money. Quran, Hud, and O my people. Give full measure and weight in justice and do not deprive the people of their due. These passages remind us that prosperity, trade, and wealth are blessings only when guided by justice and integrity. Ignoring this leads to societies collapsing under the weight of greed, fraud, and arrogance, the very fate that befell Madyan. Before we dive deep, if you enjoy unraveling the hidden lessons of history, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Trust me, the stories we uncover aren't just about the past, they're survival lessons for today. The birth of wealth worship. In the heart of ancient Madyan, commerce thrived. Caravans carried spices, fabrics, and precious metals across deserts and mountains. Markets weren't just economic centers. They were the pulse of social life, where power, influence, and reputation were measured in gold and goods. Yet, as wealth accumulated, a subtle but deadly transformation began. Wealth ceased being a tool and became an idol. Social hierarchies hardened. The elite monopolized trade routes, levied unfair tolls, and built vast palaces while the poor struggled to survive. Justice became transactional. Markets were no longer mechanisms of community prosperity. They were instruments of exploitation. This is not unique to Madyan. Look at the Indus Valley civilization, whose cities once bustled with trade and maritime prowess. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of standardized weights and trade systems, but also signs of social stratification and elite dominance that may have contributed to its decline. Similarly, the Minoans controlled maritime trade across the Mediterranean, yet their collapse coincided with societal overreach and economic imbalance. Fraud culture emerges. Fraud isn't new. In Madyan, merchants manipulated weights, adulterated goods, and bribed officials. Trust, a critical ingredient for thriving markets, eroded. The Torah, Bible, and Quran consistently warn against such practices. Torah, Leviticus, you shall do no wrong in judgment, in measures of length or weight. Bible, Proverbs, the Lord detests dishonest scales. Quran, Al-Mutaffifin 83, 1-3, woe to those who give less than do, who, when they take a measure from others, take in full. When dishonesty pervades commerce, it extends beyond markets. It corrodes social fabric. Families, communities, and even political systems begin to fracture under the invisible weight of deception. Social injustice and inequality. In Madyan, as wealth worship intensified, the gap between rich and poor widened dangerously. The wealthy flaunted their riches, hosting extravagant feasts and constructing monumental buildings. Why? Historical parallels resonate strongly. In the Indus Valley, some archaeological sites suggest disparities between large urban centers and smaller settlements. Access to resources, including water, food, and trade connections, was highly unequal. In the Minoan civilization, palaces like Knossos reflect immense centralization of wealth and power, likely leaving many citizens dependent and voiceless. The lesson is timeless. When markets are idolized, fairness is abandoned, and society becomes fertile ground for unrest and moral decay. The ego of commerce. Wealth breeds ego. Madyan's merchants and rulers began measuring worth in currency, not character. Pride in profit replaced humility in service. The community that once thrived on mutual reliance became a web of rivalries, envy, and competition that undermined collective prosperity. As we continue this journey through Madyan's rise and fall, don't forget to like this video, Every share helps more people learn these lessons from history before it's too late. Maritime and trade lessons from the past. Trade hubs often attract both opportunity and corruption. The Minoans mastered the seas, creating trade networks spanning thousands of kilometers. But wealth without ethics left them vulnerable. When crises struck, be it natural disasters or political instability, the societal cracks widened, eventually leading to decline. Madyan, too, had reached a tipping point. Markets were no longer instruments of collective progress. They were altars of worship. The moral economy was inverted. Justice, fairness, and community welfare were sacrificed at the altar of profit. As Madyan's markets became altars and wealth worship entrenched social injustice, Prophet Shu'ayb as emerged as a voice of divine guidance. His mission was not merely spiritual. It was ethical, social, and economic. Shu'ayb as confronted a society that had allowed greed to define morality, reminding them that commerce without justice leads to ruin. Quran Hud, and to Madyan we sent their brother Shu'ayb. O my people, worship Allah and do not associate anything with him, and give full measure and weight in justice and do not deprive the people of their due. Torah Proverbs, better is a little with righteousness than great revenues with injustice. Bible Luke, and soldiers likewise demanded of him, saying, And what shall we do? And he said unto them, Do violence to no man, neither accuse any falsely, and be content with your wages. These texts converge on a singular lesson: wealth is a trust, not an entitlement. Shu'ayb as warned Madyan's elite that their obsession with profit, combined with social oppression and fraud, would provoke divine and social consequences. The power of moral courage. Shu'ayb's message was revolutionary. It demanded that merchants abandon unethical practices, share wealth fairly, and restore justice in society. Yet, the elite viewed his warnings as a threat. For centuries, the accumulation of wealth had been synonymous with power. To question fraud and exploitation was to challenge authority. This confrontation highlights a timeless dynamic. Those benefiting from injustice rarely relinquish it voluntarily. Historical parallels are striking. In the Indus Valley civilization, economic hierarchies favored elites, possibly contributing to social unrest and eventual decline. Similarly, Minoan palaces centralizing wealth may have fostered elite arrogance, leaving the broader populace vulnerable when crisis struck. The culture of fraud and market idolatry. Madyan's traders were masters of deception. They adulterated goods, falsified weights, and colluded to manipulate market prices. Wealth was hoarded, philanthropy rare, and community welfare neglected. Social bonds weakened as trust eroded, creating a fertile ground for exploitation. Quran al-Mutaffifin, woe to those who give less than do, who, when they take a measure from others, take in full. Torah Leviticus 19:35-36, You shall do no wrong in judgment, in measures of length or weight. Bible Proverbs, the Lord detests dishonest scales. Unchecked, these practices became systemic. Markets no longer served society. They dictated it. Commerce dictated morality, not vice versa. Social consequences and civil tension. As economic oppression intensified, the societal fabric began to fray. Families were divided, communities competed destructively, and the marginalized grew desperate. Envy, resentment, and rebellion simmered beneath the surface. Historical echoes emerge vividly. In the Indus Valley, inequality may have weakened civic cohesion, leaving cities susceptible to collapse. The Minoans faced a combination of environmental disaster and social stratification, suggesting that wealth imbalance exacerbates vulnerability to crises. Madyan was repeating these patterns. When markets replace morality, justice, and community, the seeds of decay are sown. Resistance and rejection. Despite Shu'ayb's wisdom, the elite resisted. They ridiculed his warnings, mocked the poor, and intensified wealth worship. Human nature often favors comfort and self-interest over ethics, especially when profits are at stake. Their reaction mirrors patterns in history. Societies entrenched in greed rarely reform voluntarily. Economic power becomes spiritual power, reinforcing inequality. Madyan's downfall was inevitable, not because wealth itself is dangerous, but because it had become idolatry. The parallel of maritime civilizations. Madyan's fate resonates with other ancient societies. The Minoans controlled trade, yet overconfidence in maritime wealth and centralized power left them unprepared for catastrophe. Similarly, the Indus Valley civilization's economic systems relied on fragile social and environmental balances. When fairness eroded, so did the resilience of society. Shu'ayb's message is therefore universal. Ethical commerce is the foundation of enduring civilization. Greed, exploitation, and fraud, left unchecked, are systemic threats as lethal as natural disasters or foreign invasion. The role of leadership and accountability. Madyan's leaders were not merely passive bystanders, they were active participants in injustice. Leadership without accountability enables moral decay. Shu'ayb's exemplified courageous leadership, confronting rulers, merchants, and ordinary citizens alike. Quran Hud, if you turn away, I have conveyed to you that with which I was sent to you, my Lord will gather you all together. Leaders must enforce justice, not allow wealth to become a weapon of oppression. This principle transcends time. Any society ignoring moral governance invites collapse. CTA reminder. Reflection and engagement. Pause for a moment. Imagine a society where commerce trumps morality, and wealth is the ultimate measure of value. This is not just history. It's a mirror reflecting modern challenges. If you're following this story, take a moment to like and comment. Share your thoughts. How does wealth influence morality today? Engaging in this conversation helps us understand the lessons Shu'ayb's taught thousands of years ago. Foreshadowing the climax. By now, the tension in Madyan is palpable. Markets have become idols. Fraud culture dominates. Social injustice has escalated. Wealth worship has inverted societal priorities. Shu'ayb's warnings have been ignored. The stage is set for the divine and social reckoning that will define Madyan's legacy. The next will reveal the consequences of ignoring ethics, showing how markets without morality lead to catastrophic collapse. A warning echoing across civilizations from Minoans to the Indus Valley, and to societies today. As Madyan's greed and injustice reached their peak, society teetered on the edge. Markets that were once centers of trade and community became arenas of corruption and oppression. The poor grew desperate, the middle classes fearful, and the elite arrogantly insulated themselves from consequence. The Quran warns repeatedly of the fate of such societies. Quran Hud 11:90 And do not turn away from the needy, nor spread corruption in the land. Torah Proverbs Whoever gives to the poor will lack nothing, but those who close their eyes to them receive many curses. Bible James Come now, you rich, weep and howl. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Madyan had ignored these warnings. Wealth had become a deity, markets were worshipped more than justice. Fraud, oppression, and arrogance had reached systemic proportions. Signs of imminent collapse. The collapse of Madyan did not arrive as a sudden event. It began subtly. Economic fragility. Hoarded wealth and fraudulent practices destabilized trade networks. Caravans refused to travel with merchants known for cheating. Neighboring communities lost trust, and trade slowed. Social unrest. Resentment among the oppressed grew into protest and rebellion. Families fractured as mistrust seeped into daily life. Divine warning ignored. Shu'ayb as repeatedly warned the people. Yet arrogance blinded them to reason and foresight. Historical parallels are striking. In the Indus Valley civilization, evidence suggests that resource mismanagement and social inequality weakened civic cohesion, leaving cities vulnerable to environmental and economic shocks. The Minoans, despite controlling maritime trade, became vulnerable to natural disasters and societal instability, amplified by centralized elite power and neglect of communal welfare. Madyan's trajectory mirrored these patterns. Wealth without ethics leads to societal fragility. The ethical reckoning. Shu'ayb as remained steadfast, reminding Madyan's people that justice, fairness, and compassion were non-negotiable. Markets are tools, not gods. Without morality, prosperity turns to poison. The elite's rejection of these principles sealed their fate. They clung to power and wealth while ignoring the moral economy that sustains civilization. Quran, Hud, and we saved those who believed and used to fear Allah. And the shriek seized the wrongdoers, and they became motionless bodies in their homes. Torah, Deuteronomy, but it shall come to pass, if you will not hearken unto the voice of the Lord, all these curses shall come upon you. Bible, Jeremiah, for among my people are found wicked men. They have grown fat, they have grown sleek. They do not plead the cause of the fatherless, neither does the cause of the widow come unto them. The consequences of ignoring ethical commerce are profound. Moral decay leads to structural collapse. Social injustice begets unrest. Fraud and greed erode trust. Madyan's fate was now inevitable. The collapse of Madyan. Historical and spiritual accounts converge on the final lesson. Societies that idolize markets over morality self-destruct. Madyan faced economic disintegration. Trade networks dissolved as fraud and mistrust dominated. Social fragmentation. Communities broke apart. The elite could not protect their wealth. Divine retribution. According to scripture, Madyan's destruction was swift, leaving behind ruins as testimony for future generations. The collapse was not a story of chance, it was the natural consequence of ignoring justice and ethics. Markets can amplify human ingenuity or magnify human vice. Madyan exemplifies the latter. Lessons for today. While Madyan is ancient, its warning is timeless. Modern societies face similar challenges. Wealth concentration without accountability, fraudulent practices in markets, social inequality and injustice, cultural idolization of money. Shu'ayb's message echoes across millennia. Commerce is a trust. Trade must serve society, not exploit it. Justice is non-negotiable. Wealth must not come at the expense of fairness or human dignity. Ethics protect civilization. Ignoring morality accelerates decay and collapse. The Indus Valley, Minoan civilization, and countless other societies illustrate the universality of these principles. Moral economy is the backbone of enduring prosperity. Now, take a moment to reflect. In your daily life, do you see markets, money, or power being idolized? Are fairness, justice, and empathy present in your communities? History is not just a record of the past, it is a guide for survival and wisdom today. If you found these lessons insightful, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video. Help others learn from history before the mistakes of Madyan repeat in modern societies. Remember, ethics in commerce is not optional. It is the foundation of civilization. Every trade, every deal, and every transaction carries a moral weight. Ignoring it invites collapse. Madyan's story is stark. When markets become idols, society dies. Fraud culture, social injustice, and wealth worship are not distant threats. They are lessons written in the ruins of civilizations, echoing warnings from Torah, Bible, and Quran alike. The fate of Madyan reminds us, prosperity is fleeting without justice, and wealth is meaningless without ethics. Let these ancient warnings guide modern choices, commerce, and social responsibility.